Yo, what's up guys? You got PokeaimMD here with the updated moveset video on Buzzwole. Now, Buzzwole has been a Pokemon that really I feel like its highest point was when it was down in the UU tier before it got banned, where the sub-punching Buzzwole set was just so good that it literally cost you a Pokemon to take it out or break its sub. But of course, that mon, or at least in that tier, Buzzwole ended up being banned. So Buzzwole does still have its place in OU and Ubers if you actually want to use it up in the Ubers tier, the only two tiers that it's currently is available in besides VGC. Now, if you guys missed any of my previous updated moveset video, guys, I encourage you to check them out. There's a playlist down below. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitch and Twitter. I do stream often, and follow me on Twitter lets you keep up to date with me. Now, the first set we're going to be talking about is the Ubers support set for Buzzwole. Yes, it can be used in the Ubers tier because it is bug and fighting type. It has great base 107 HP and great base 139 defense. Buzzwole is actually a Pokemon that can take on some of the prominent threats in the Ubers metagame. It can actually wall a Primal Groudon that lacks a fire type attack. It does beat Arceus Dark 1v1. The Spadef EVs and the HP investment let you take +1 judgments and then 2 KO Arceus Dark with Hammer Arm. And it also can take on Pokemon like the likes of Zygarde Complete, Father, as well as Arceus, SD Arceus, and even Marshadow. I'll actually show you a calc right here, but this is Marshadow's close combat versus the Buzzwole spread we have. It does 13 to 16%. Special Thief does 20 to 24%. It's a possible 6-hit KO after leftovers recovery. And then this is the Z. This is Z Soul Stealing. It does 44 to 52%. So even if this boy starts bulking up, Buzzwole can just roost off the damage and then proceed to Toxic Stall it. As you can see after that, it does 30 to 36%, so it's a guaranteed 4-hit KO. So Buzzwole can Roost Stall any Marshadow that it is Toxic, and that's why we have Toxic on this set. So Hammer Arm is here because it's infinitely better than Superpower. You don't need speed on Buzzwole. Hammer Arm allows you to check Arceus Dark, allows you to get off some chip damage on Primal Groudon, as well as dealing with Arceus Normal. Toxic is pretty much the thing that makes Buzzwole so good besides its typing and Roost. Toxic allows you to cripple Pokemon like Ho coming in, Pokemon like Salamence, Pokemon like Arceus Water, and even allow you to beat Marshadow. As you guys saw by the damage calc, you do end up beating Marshadow 1v1 if you are able to Toxic it and just Roost Stall it. Now, Roost is necessary on this set, allowing you to deal with the physical threats of Ubers. In the Ubers tier, the Spadef also helps you take on Specs of Veltal locked in the Dark Pulse, which Buzzwole can naturally wall, but you do have to be careful about Dark Pulse actually flinching you. And Toxic just allows you to wear down all the threats. Toxic is probably the #1 best move in Ubers right now, I would say. And last but not least, you have Stone Edge. Now, Stone Edge is pretty cool because it allows you to catch Ho by surprise. You would see Ho coming in on this Pokemon because you are bug and fighting. Ho does resist both of those, and if you hit that thing with a Stone Edge upon switching, it does die. I do also want to note that Buzzwole does take on Mega Lucario, so like this is a Pokemon that can take on some Uber threats, and I will be using it in the Ubers tier as opposed to OU because I feel like we've all seen Buzzwole enough in OU. I want to use it in Ubers, but there are a few other options. Earthquake is cool if you want to hit Mega Gengar, as well as hitting Primal Groudon. Mega Gengar obviously is a threat because it does trap you with Shadow Tag, so Earthquake is there to get the KO on that, also doing a decent chunk to Primal Groudon. Speaking of Mega Gengar, Shed Shell is also an option if you are worried about being trapped, but I would always use Leftovers just because the longevity that they provide alongside Roost. Ice Punch is an option for Zygarde, as well as Salamence. Mega Salamence doesn't appreciate taking Ice Punch upon switching. Leech Life is a cool option over Stone Edge, and I think that's like basically Ice Punch, Leech Life, Stone Edge, or Earthquake. I'll be talking about them a little bit more, but they're always going to be over this slot. You always want Hammer Arm, Toxic, and Roost. They're always going to be over this slot. Leech Life is pretty cool because you do gain recovery versus Arceus Water that are going for recover themselves. And Lunge is also pretty nice because it's a 100% chance to lower your target's attack by 1, so you can stop a setup mon from setting up on you by just spamming Lunge till Buzzwole goes down, getting that double, or not getting the kill, but forcing them to kill you or knock you out. That way Buzzwole prevents them from actually, having the attack boost. So that's pretty cool. That's also a good option over Stone Edge if you also want to beat Marshadow a lot easier. But Lunge is a really cool option. I'll be using Stone Edge on the one that I use. But yeah, these are all just other options. I prefer Stone Edge, Lunge, or Ice Punch, honestly. to Earthquake. I don't really care too much about Mega Gengar. I mean, if they got me with it, then they could trap me either way. Most likely, if they have Will-O-Wisp, it doesn't matter if I have Earthquake, because Will-O-Wisp into Hex will deal with Buzzwole regardless. So, in OU, there are a few cool sets that it can run, as you guys see here. A lot of them are just repeated sets with other options, but this is an updated moveset and I want to talk about them. So SubPunch is the first one that comes to mind. Now the EV spread allows you to have 101 HP substitutes, which means that Chansey's Seismic Toss does not break your sub in one hit, and you can sub Focus Punch on that. The speed allows you to outspeed defensive Landorus, so if you are running Ice Punch, again, there are other options which I will be covering, but if you are running Ice Punch, you're probably going to want this speed tier. The 12 Spadef means that Toxapex Scald does not break your sub. Now, this is good if you are running Earthquake or Thunder Punch on Buzzwole. And again, I'll talk about that in the other options. And the rest is just put into attack to make Focus Punch as powerful as possible. But the idea of this is sub up on the fatter, the bulkier teams. Leech Life is cool for recovery, also allowing you to actually damage Sableye, Mega Sableye, which is a pretty good one. And of course, getting back that recovery with the leftovers. You can also run all-out pummeling on this set. In UU, a common set was just Jolly Max Speed, Max Attack, subbing, because it just had the natural bulk, and then all-out pummeling. Focus Punch was just a nuke. It actually is just a nuke. But in OU, you do have Pokemon like Toxapex, Tapu Fini, so make it less of a nuke. So speaking of which, this is why there are other options. Earthquake allows you to hit Pokemon like Alolan Marowak as well as Toxapex, which is pretty cool because it doesn't break your sub. So if you are running the 12 Spadef, I would run Earthquake on it. Thunder Punch is a cool option for hitting Toxapex, as well as flying types like Tornadus, and it doesn't really exist as much, but it is a flying type, as well as hitting Tapu Fini and Toxapex in the same hit. So it is an option. Lunge is cool with sub because you're lowering their attack, so they're not going to be able to break your sub, especially if they are a physical attacker. For the most part, they won't be able to break your sub anyway. And then Poison Jab is also another nice option, being able to deal with Tapu Koko, Tapu Bulu, Tapu Fini, basically fairy types, and also dealing massive damage to Clefable, which you do outspeed. Now, again, this set does have that 4-move slot syndrome where it really wants to run as many moves as possible. You want Ice Punch because you outspeed Landorus, right? You outspeed defensive Landorus. You want to be able to pop it with an Ice Punch and maybe pair it with like SD Garchomp, appreciating Landorus going down. But you also want Earthquake because you have this 12 Spadef. That way Toxapex can't break your sub. Earthquake does too at KO it because they are commonly running Spadef now for Ash Gren and Pokemon like that. And then, of course, you want like Earthquake if they have, you want Poison Jab if they have Tapu Fini. So it's really one of those mons that you have to pick your poison with. Basically, whatever one you don't cover, just make sure your team covers that. It's not that hard though. Next up we have Choice Scarf. Now Choice Scarf is pretty cool because it does have a pretty unique speed tier, being faster than Scarf Heatran, which isn't that big because Scarf Trend isn't really there, but also that speed tier allows it to also outspeed Tapu Koko, Ash Greninja, as well as Lopunny, Mega Manectric. So, and with Beast Boost, having that ability to get that Beast Boost, get that +1 if you do knock something out, it's really cool. It does have sweeping potential. So, I do have Choice and the Band, and then I do have other options which I will be covering. But Superpower is your main form of stab. You want this over Hammer Arm. You are a Choice Scarf user. You do not want to drop your speed. Imagine getting a KO on Mega Tyranitar, and then they come into Magearna after, and or not really Magearna, but like they go into like a 30% Tapu Koko, and because you lowered your speed, Koko outspeeds you and knocks you out. Whereas if you get your Beast Boost, you're at neutral attack and you can knock out Koko. So a situation like that. Superpower is your main form of stab. Leech Life is really cool, especially in a metagame with Mew. That's one thing I want to know if you are running SubPunch or something. I think Leech Life is really worth using because Mew is everywhere. So Leech Life gives you that sweeping potential, also being able to hit Latios, and just giving you recovery as well, knocking out Hoopa, and just doing massive damage regardless. Like with Leech Life, you gain recovery enough to the point where you could take on Pokemon like Mega Swampert and Rain if they've been weakened, because you do tank hits and you are gaining HP back. Ice Punch is necessary. Landorus is probably going to be the #1 switch, and Landorus is what is it, top 4 in usage? It might even be #1 in usage. I don't even know right now, but it is somewhere up there, and this allows you to deal with that while also hitting Zygarde. Offensive variants of Zygarde do go down. That is something to note, as well as the fact that Earthquake, I think, is pretty cool. I think it's really spammable. I mean, there are other options, which I'll talk about here, Poison Jab, but Earthquake Allows you to hit, Toxapex upon switching, Tapu Koko and whatnot for some decent damage. I do have choice other options, so this goes for Banded and Scarf because they're both running the exact same thing. Though Banded is pretty cool because it does have a speed tier that is faster than max speed Heatran, which is definitely running around. So similarly to that, Super Power Oko is that obviously. So I think you're always going to run Jolly on Banded and Scarf. Always. I don't think Adamant, like in the beginning of the metagame, Adamant might have been something that is like worth using, but right now I feel like no, it's not. I think Jolly is just the way to go, outspeeding Pokemon like Heatran. And then if you run Adamant, you're still faster than Magearna, so that's one thing to note. But it's just, I don't think it's worth running anything that's not Jolly, because being fast in Heatran is a pretty big speed tier. And if you are running on Choice Scarf set, I think that Stone Edge is a pretty cool option over Earthquake, being able to hit Zard Y, since they would probably commonly come in on you, and it can Roost and pretty much shrug off all your attacks, doesn't really care. Though if rocks are up, it doesn't want to come in on Ice Punch, even Super Power to it, KO if rocks are up. So, but Stone Edge is a pretty cool option for that. Poison Jab, I already mentioned, this allows you to hit fairy types like Tapu Fini, Tapu Koko, also Clefable for pretty decent damage. If you are running the Bandit set, I would probably run Poison Jab. It's a tough call, right? Because you want all these sets, and I already talked about it. Like, you want to be able to hit Koko, you want to be able to hit Fini, you want to be able to hit Toxapex. So it really is a tough call if you are running one or the other. But it really is up to what your team is based around and up to you. Again, it is like you pick your poison basically. You be able to hit one or the other. If you are running Choice Scarf, I think I actually like Earthquake best. Being able to deal with weakened Toxapex, Tapu Koko, and things like that. Though that is just my opinion. It really is up to you if that's what you want to run. Roost is a pretty cool option because the great thing about Buzzwole is, and I feel like all the other options have the exact same movesets on them. But that's because, Buzzwole is just one of those mons, like, you gotta pick what you are weak to. So, again, one of the things about it is that it's naturally being able to switch into AV Tangrowth. It's naturally able to switch into, especially if they don't run HV Fire, which doesn't do much anyway. It doesn't care about knockoff. It's naturally able to switch into Zygarde, which is a really, really big one. It's naturally able to switch into defensive Landorus that's not running Z-Fly. Like Pokemon like that, Buzzwole can naturally switch into. So Roost is a cool option because you're able to switch into those mons. You can take their hits, Roost off the damage, and then damage them back with either Ice Punch for Zygarde, which is necessary, or Landorus, Garchomp as well. Super Power, which is your main form of stab, and then either Earthquake, and of course other options, Poison Jab, Leech Life, or Lunge. Leech Life is pretty cool because, again, it's a metagame where Mew is running around, so Leech Life is able to do, it's a solid 2-hit KO on Mew, and if they're not running, an infinite amount of speed, which some are running like 290 speed for, some are running like 290 speed for Zygarde, then you're able to deal them or hit them with a massive hit. Lunge is pretty cool for setup Zygarde. Like Dragon Dance Coil might be able to set up on Ice Punch, but if you're lunging it, it's not going to be able to do crap, man. It's not going to be able to do crap to you. So you can put that over Earthquake if you want. Earthquake, again, is there for Toxapex. And again, Buzzwole, it's a good mon. It's definitely a good mon. I think with the way the metagame is, what's common, it has a chance to break through defensive mons or defensive cores, especially if you're running the right moveset. Like Choice Band can definitely run through defensive teams, but you definitely need prediction with this mon. Like if they have Landorus, Tangrowth, Celesteela, Toxapex, like you got to predict either the Landorus coming in, the Toxapex coming in, Tangrowth maybe coming in on Earthquake if they've already seen that, Celesteela maybe coming in on Ice Punch, Earthquake, Leech Life. You got to predict. It's a really prediction heavy mon. So Roost kind of helps with that, but you lose out on that power. You can run All Out Pummeling. You can run a few other options. You can run PokeaimMD for Acid Downpour for like some massive damage on Tapu Fini. You KO weaken Tapu Fini. You do a hell of a lot to Clefable if you are Adamant Max. Facade is also an option on the Bandit set. If you do get burnt, you don't care about that burn, so you can do massive damage. Power Up Punch is good for boosting, but typically, I don't know, you're missing out on moves, so it's kind of tough for Buzzwole. Same thing with Bulk Up. Like if you're running sub Bulk Up, then what two sets are you running? You're running either Leech Life and Hammer Arm, maybe Super Power or something like that. But then if you phase like a Haze, Run Super Power doesn't make much sense with Bulk Up anyway. which this mon got Drain Punch or Close Combat. But if you're facing like a Haze Toxapex, it beats that anyway. And Talent is pretty cool for like Recover Toxapex. For like slower teams, maybe like Ferrothorn trying to Leech Seed you if you're like -1 attack or something, things like that. Stopping Landers for setting up rocks, but otherwise, these are just the best options for it, honestly. Like, Buzzwole really is one of those mons that you do have to pick your poison. I did mention that a bunch of times, but you do have to pick what mon you want to be weak to, or what set you want to be weak to when you're using this, or what Pokemon rather. But overall, it's a really cool Pokemon, really fun to use. We have a few teammates right here. So these are some of the better Buzzwole teammates. Tangrowth is really cool because it comes in on a lot of the fairy types in the metagame. It knocks off Toxapex, it beats Tapu Fini, it deals with Greninja, being able to deal with the... also appreciating the fact that Buzzwole gets rid of Heatran. Also being able to... Assault Vest Tangrowth deals with Magearna, Pokemon like that. So switches in well on what Buzzwole is weak to. Magearna is also another great teammate, being able to take like Lele's attacks and whatnot aimed at that, being able to take the fairy type attacks aimed at that, having Volt Switch to get in Buzzwole, a choice band set, a setup sweeper, being able to break through Pokemon like Toxapex with Gigavolt Havoc or things like that, easing Buzzwole's play. And Keldeo is also a great teammate because it does resist the fire type attacks aimed at Buzzwole. It also can come in on Ask Greninja, threaten Zard Y with Stone Edge / Hydro Pump respectively, depending on if Stealth Rock are up, Hydro Pump. If no Stealth Rock are up, you do have Stone Edge for that and Volcarona. And being able to deal with those teammates. Likewise, Celesteela pretty much just Leech Seed stalls everything that can beat Buzzwole, but also appreciates Buzzwole getting rid of Heatran and Pokemon like that, and being a fairy resist. So they work really well together. If you are playing in the Ubers tier, Xerneas is a great partner because it is a cleric. It also deals with dark types like, well, the flying types really like a Veltal. And it also appreciates Buzzwole getting the surprise KOs on Ho-Oh, but it can come in on Oblivion Wing, and it also can threaten a Veltal. It can get up the it can get up on Aromatherapy to heal Buzzwole if it is poisoned in the Ubers tier, and it also can it appreciates the chip damage that Buzzwole gets off on Pokemon like Primal Groudon, because especially if it's Scarf Xerneas' goal is just to click Moonblast repeatedly. So weaken Primal Groudon is a happy Xerneas. Arceus Water is also a great partner for Buzzwole. It can switch in on the flying types like Rayquaza, Salamence, and Ho-Oh. Deals with them with Ice Beam / Judgment repeatedly. Can Toxic Stall, can defog support for Buzzwole. So great teammate. Now a few checks and counters, mainly OU. Tapu Fini, depending on the set, deals with Buzzwole, knocks it out for the most part with Moonblaster, does a ton of damage, and it can resist all of its stab. Clefable, basically fairy types, so Clefable takes every hit that Buzzwole has that is not a choice band poison jab, sets up rocks on it, can Moonblast for the KO, can knock off. Tapu Koko, Electric Terrain, boosted Thunderbolt, does a ton. At the same time, being a fairy type naturally switches into fighting and a bug type. It does have to worry about Earthquake and Poison Jab though, and it can also Roost. Toxapex probably the best switching. Though Scald is a 2-hit KO on sub, if it's not running Earthquake, it doesn't care. It switches in on Buzzwole's choice band attacks because they don't OHKO Toxapex, and it can pivot out because it regenerates. Toxapex probably one of the best switch-ins. And then Pinsir resists every single attack, doesn't take much from Ice Punch, can knock it out with Aerial boosted return, and can sit up on it. Same thing with Zard Y. They do have to be careful about random Stone Edge on Buzzwole, but besides that, they deal with every attack they can come out of. Of course, if it's Choice Scarf, again, and rocks are up, Zard Y does have to worry about switching in because it will be 2-hit KO'd by an Ice Punch or a Superpower after rocks. And if it's Choice Scarf, it does get that 2-hit KO. But all in all, Buzzwole's a really cool Pokemon. I'm excited to use it in the Ubers tier, and hopefully you guys check that out later. And yeah, feel free to leave any other such suggestions you might have down below. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, friends.